Everybody, Andy here again. Today I wanted to talk about a particular topic, but first I'm going to show you this because this is the new issue of the Stinger magazine, and our sort of main feature in there is an article about a couple of ideas that have come out which sort of help bands. It's sort of do it yourself but do it together sort of philosophy, back to the old punk days, but the idea being that you get everybody together in a collaboration or something and get things moving for local bands to get them seen everywhere. The one of the ideas is called Unconvention, but the other one that I'm talking about here really is something called Off Axis, and what it is basically a gig swapping idea. But in the course of that, what I did, I spoke to one of the co-founders of that organisation, Jeff Thompson. Spoke to him by phone and spoke to him about half an hour on the phone. A great conversation. Of course, you go back to look at it and write it up. My daughter actually transcribed it for me, thank you. And in the course of that, obviously wrote up the article, and then he got to see it, sent it to him, he had a look, and there was a particular comment in there that he was a little bit concerned about. And what it was to do was a local band who were going to play one of these gig swap ideas, one of the first events that they're having actually in Chester this week, I believe. And what he wanted, he was sort of enthusing about it, and was saying that what he wants is for people up at that gig, you know, all the 100 or 200 people that are going to be at that gig, and they're going to see this band from Hastings for the first time, and they're going to think, geez, this band is from Hastings. And he was a bit concerned that people might actually take that the wrong way. They might think that that was a bit of an insult. The point being was, why shouldn't they come from Hastings? One of my old bugbears, and one of those things that I wanted to talk about here. Now, I've got a couple of notes here, because what I did is as I said, he was concerned about this and wanted me to maybe change that particular comment. And I said, no, I totally respect why you're saying that, because he didn't mean it that way, definitely didn't mean it as an insult whatsoever. He was enthusing about, wow, this band comes from Hastings, but some people may take it the wrong way. I didn't take it that way, and as it happens, neither did my daughter, who was transcribing it. But I'll read out some of what I said to you, because I said, I'm going to keep it exactly the same way, because one of the things was that if people did actually say that, I would actually be quite pleased in some ways, because it sort of reinforces that old problem, is that people just don't think that decent bands can come from anywhere apart from a big city, whether it be London obviously, or whether it be even somewhere like Liverpool, Manchester, or even today, these sort of days, Brighton's one of those places that the bands come out from. Now, I know that some bands actually move to these places to make it big. That's, you know, they don't all come from provincial towns. They move up and then they actually meet in places like Liverpool or Manchester or London or Brighton or whatever it might be. But some bands actually move to these cities to make it big. They feel that that's what they have to, and even to the extent, and I know one local band that's done this, whether it unwittingly or whether it's someone else has done it for them. You look at their Facebook page or their website, and although they come from Hastings and they live in Hastings, it says that they come from London. Now, why do they do that? So anyway, getting back to my email, and what I said to Jeff was that this whole thing sort of reinforces the problem that we have in Hastings, is that people just don't believe or expect that our bands are going to be any good because of where they come from. And also, so many expect all these bands to come from those big cities. Now, that I said before, they never expect them to come from a smallish town like Hastings or anywhere else. You may well, wherever you are, you may well recognise this as well. And my point, I said this to so many people in the past, all bands have to come from somewhere. So why not Hastings? Why does it have to be from a big city? There are bands, I think Muse come from somewhere like Teignmouth in Devon. You know, well, why shouldn't they come from there? And Coldplay, although they got together in London, they came from Devon or something. All these bands have to come from somewhere. They don't all come from big cities, and the problem is they feel that they have to move there or advertise that particular fact to make them think that they can. And I said, so all bands have to come from somewhere. And as I said, that thing that, Jesus, this band comes from Hastings, I think that that's a good thing. And it just sort of reinforces all of those things, because I've had this before. With the local music shows that I've done on Hastings Rock and even Carnival FM in the last few years as well, especially in the early days of doing that on Hastings Rock, and I got the feeling that not many people were listening. Probably weren't. It was just some of the local musicians that were listening. Even DJs on the station never used to listen. And then every so often you get one of them say, I come across your programme the other day, listened to it by mistake, effectively. Wow, he said, there was some good music on there. I was quite surprised. Why are you surprised? Why are you surprised that decent music should come from a place like here? Yeah, we've got bad music here as well. It's not all great, obviously it isn't. It's the same as everywhere else. But why do people have that sort of prejudice about a place like Hastings or other places as well, that they don't expect it to be any good? I think I've overcome that now, and people are sort of tuning in, even some of those people who aren't particularly into original music. They love their old classics and that, but they're listening because they are surprised by the depth of the music, the quality of the music as well, and the talent and the musicianship that we've got right across the ages here. I mean, I know that Hastings punches above its weight compared to other places. Other places have got decent music scenes as well, which is something that we're trying to sort of promote in the magazine as well. But this also comes across in other ways as well. We've had well, not a local, I think he's a national, I think it's a Daily Telegraph or something, Matthew Norman, who's a restaurant critic amongst other things, and he posted a very good review, as it happens, of a local restaurant which isn't far from where I'm talking from now, but he had to put that little bit in there about walking through the town, and parts of it reminded him of 1980s Bucharest in Romania. Now, why did he have to put that down? No town is perfect. Everywhere's got its problems somewhere or other. So why do you have to pick that little bit? It's because it seems to be a cheap shot. It seems to be sort of an easy option. People sort of fall into that trap, whether they be journalists or whatever. They fall into that trap that they have to sort of knock down or diss particular places, and Hastings is one of those trendy places to knock down because we've had problems with lots of different things, piers burning down, deprivation, bits of crime and all that sort of stuff. Hasn't other places had that as well? So why do they have to just put that little bit in there? Maybe it's because that makes them feel a bit better, but my whole point being is that good music can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be in Hastings, it doesn't have to be London, it doesn't have to be in England, it doesn't have to be in Britain. We've all experienced this for world music as well, and people have that same sort of thing there. They've listened to music from Africa or from South America or Asia or saying, cool, actually this is pretty good, I quite like this. Why shouldn't you? Music is universal, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Ultimately it comes from the heart and maybe from the head as well. So we shouldn't be surprised that we like music wherever it comes from. And when it comes to towns, I wouldn't want any town to be perfect, because no town is perfect, and personally, if a town was perfect, I don't think I'd want to live there. I'm pretty sure that other people feel the same. Anyway, that's a little bit of a rant over. Be interested to know what you think, and I'm sure that there are lots of other towns, or possibly not cities, but lots of other towns that feel the same way, or people in towns that feel the same way as I do about our local music scene here. If you do, please let me know. We'd love to get in contact and, with the magazine and that, and maybe do some sort of reciprocal arrangement, and maybe swap some gigs with people, the decent bands from your town as well, because I know they're out there. They're not all in the cities. In fact, talking to a local musician the other day, you go to some of the big cities and all the bands sound the same, because there's little scenes and everything's pretty homogenous, whereas you come to somewhere like Hastings and probably other towns as well, it's completely varied. Maybe the decent people stay here and all the others go somewhere else. I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for your time. Please let me know what you think. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.